He's around if you have any questions. So, thanks a lot. So next, we have another partner of ours, HP. So we'll have Ramu Raghavan, who's Country Manager Pre-Sales for HP Enterprise Servers, to take us through his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Nice presentation. So hope we are going to have the same attention in this as well. Slide change. Yeah, here. Thanks. First of all, I want to thank all of you for joining us for the session. It's a day-long session. I know after my session, we are going to have lunch. I'm there between you and the lunch. So knowing that, so my session is going to be on the solutions what we have for live economy. Actually, the topic given for this whole day event is really very nice. We talk about the idea economy, agile economy, and live economy. All of them are same. How we can build our infrastructure or the applications which are agile enough. So this is the idea economy or the live economy. This is a slide probably all of you would have seen. By 2020, we talk about 1 trillion applications, which is going to go around about 100 billion connected devices. We also call nowadays something called as IoT. Actually, the whole world now, which is revolving around ideas. So what that means is that who is able to commercialize their ideas faster, they are going to be the winner. Who is going to be not, he may be having thousands of ideas. When I tell he, the company, the organization may have thousands of ideas. If they cannot be, if those all cannot be commercialized, that means they are going to lose out in the market. I want to just give an example, 2 examples. The first example is that just about 2-3 days back, you would have heard about one mobile company, okay, which starts with A, which is going to open developer center in Bangalore. They are going to hire about 40,000 square feet space. What they are going to do is that it is going to be a development center. They are going to develop, so it is going to, wide open for the developers to come with their operating systems to develop the applications. And the applications are everything now, the ideas, how you can transform that to the applications. And another example which I want to give is that, now because of the agility, if somebody is able to be agile enough to produce an application, I have one of my friend, he is working in the US for an oil and gas company, and recently they established a office in Bangalore, HSR layout. And there was a requirement for developing an application which is mobile-based application. What that it is, they gave that project to Bangalore. You will not believe me. What that it is, they went to the Udupi side. There was a small developer. They took just about 3 days time to complete their project. They developed the very nice application and gave it back, and which is used by the US company. And what that means in this is that it came from there, it came to Bangalore, it went to Udupi, all this you see. But what is very, very important is that the agility. Right? The agility. What is that agility means is that the application and the infrastructure, all those should be agile enough. Whenever I need, yes, it is possible. Why people go for cloud? If you ask me whether that is going to be economical, that you have to do TCO, ROI, all of them. But when you look at it, may be a very good model to an extent when you go up to certain number of workloads or the number of workloads. If you go beyond that, that may not be. But 2 reasons, compelling reasons for people going for cloud is that the first one, the fast at which I am going to deploy my application. You go to AWS or hybrid solutions, whatever you consider, it may be about 1 hour time or 45 minutes. My application may be a VM or physical machine which is ready. That is the first reason. The second reason is the manageability. If you can bring the same kind of attributes to your infrastructure which is there on-premise, you can do much better than whatever the cloud can do. So if you look at what this leaves us is that it leaves us with bimodal IT. That's what IDCs and Gartners call. One is for the traditional applications. It may be SAP HANA or it may be database machines. These all are the traditional applications. The other side, you have the infrastructure for idea economy. If you look at these two are 2 distinct solutions or 2 distinct applications. The requirements in the traditional applications, you do not expect a company to grow 100 times within 5 years. It's no way possible unless there is going to be a huge number of acquisitions and mergers. A company which has got 10,000 people, no way it can go to 1 lakh or 2 lakh people within a short span of time. But whereas if you consider maybe an e-commerce portal, or it may be a portal for a web application, these all, which is so erratic. I am going to give a new scheme. Okay, maybe you know about the $1 billion sale and all these. So these are some of the applications. If you look at, these are cloud native, and it is very difficult to predict what is that kind of a hit going to have. So what that means is that is what called as your cloud-enabled idea economy applications. These two require two different distinct solutions. When I tell the traditional applications, which requires the scalability, availability, and all those whatnot. But whereas the cloud-enabled, as I given you an example, people look at, maybe I am very sure that your business team as well, when they come to you, they will tell, can you give me certain applications? I want to go live within a week. I am very sure that is what the situation currently. But whereas as an infrastructure or an application, it may not be possible for us to go and put them on live. So now, how we can look at something completely different, which will call for a new experience, which is rebooting your current infrastructure. So how the infrastructure should look like, what we call bimodal. I should be able to provision for both cloud-enabled applications, which is really very, very prevalent, but we cannot just go away from your traditional applications. I need to look at something which I can have all these together. The moment you have an infrastructure which can be shared by all of them, you are going to benefit from that. And which will surely going to help you to reduce the capital expenses. And it is surely, so this is the second one, which is something like a mandate. As I mentioned, people go to cloud. If you are able to provision something at cloud speed, I can provision in-premise as well. Maybe about 15 minutes time, or maybe in seconds away, if I am able to provision and give it to the business, that is what is required. And develop more apps faster. The more faster you develop, your business gets that faster, and you are going to lead in your field of business, whatever you are doing. What we are doing is, HPE, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, is launching something called as Composable Infrastructure, which in another quarter, this quarter, what we are targeting. And in fact, actually, this platform which was launched in last Discover, which was in December, and there are a lot of development work and alliance work with like SAPs, Microsoft, all of them, it is going on. And it is going to hit the sell cycle in just about a quarter. What this means is that there are 4 definitions. The first one is that you will be able to run anything on this composable infrastructure. So you will not be left with a siloed approach. Siloed approach, I have a particular infrastructure which is used only for this particular database, or it is used only for this particular workload. It may be HANA as well, or it may be Hadoop, or it may be Exchange. So what you do is that you are going to have an infrastructure which is composable infrastructure. You will be able to compose and recompose depending on your workload. That is, run anything. And you will also be able to move faster. So that is another key element. Currently, if you look at, we are not able to move the applications or the workloads faster. So that's the reason we are really fixated to one given infrastructure for that particular workload. So that results in underutilization and over-provisioned. That is what it helps you to reduce the capital expenses. And the efficiency and unlocking value, which I am going to cover subsequently. So what you see in this slide, these 3 are the guiding principles for this architecture. The first one is fluid resource pool. What we are going to do is that in this infrastructure, once it is going to be available in another quarter, so it is going to give you a fluidity in nature. You do not need to be telling that this particular system is defined only to run this particular application. And this is for only this database. So for next 5 years, it has to run only in this. That is not the case. Instead of that, you compose it for given application, or workload rather, not the application, for the workload. Once that usage is completed, you just define another, recompose that. And recompose. So what that means is that you are going to recompose for your actual demand of the workload. That is going to help you to reduce your capital expenses. Then the second one is software-defined intelligence, what it is going to bring in. Depending on your workload, you define your maybe a QoS, or what are the characteristics of the applications you define for the application. Okay, it is going to be something like a stateless. As long I am going to run workload A, I am going to have this state. Workload B requires a different state. I move over to that by just doing software-defined configuration. That is the second one. Then the third one is unified API, a single line of code. The single line of code which helps you to provision, it may be a database, it may be a virtualization, it may be a container, whatever the workload you want, infrastructure or the applications, using a single code. It may have some storage, it may have some networking or compute, and all those will be provisioned in a single line of code. These are the elements which is making this infrastructure to deploy your workload at cloud-like speed. And we are very, very excited about this particular one. And even Gartner as well had released, so you could have searched, you can search in the Google something called as Composable Infrastructure. You are very sure you will see a lot of hits on that, and which is going to be released in another quarter, as I said. So this is what the architecture is. What you see, it's a completely grounds up approach. So none of the existing products what we use for this. So this is a completely different frames, servers, and storages, networking. It is going to help you to compose your workload for the compute, for the storage, and also for the networking as well. Okay. So really, as I said, we are very, very excited about this. Now, I'll just come to the next one. If you look at the business data, that's what we talk about, the HANA or traditional applications and everything. Here, you have the machine data, which is IoT, and the other one is the human data, which is growing exponentially. In fact, whenever every 2 years or 3 years, I am seeing that the numbers are changing completely. Earlier, we used to tell maybe about 10 billion devices. Now we are talking about 100 billion devices. Similarly, the applications as well. We were talking about some billions earlier. Now it is trillions. In another 2-3 years, it will be much more than that as well. And in fact, HPE also embarking on another project. You would have heard something called as the machine. So which is another roadmap which may be available after 2 or 3 years. So what these all are about is that how it is possible for us to acquire data faster and do analytics and give the data back. Okay, the whole SAP HANA is about that. Now, what is the requirement for the infrastructure which is going to host SAP HANA is that you are going to talk about scalability. And scalability is that these are the traditional applications. It is not that today I wanted to start with 1,000 users. After 3 years, I am going to go to 10,000 users. I can go and do a forklift upgrade. Am I right? We can't do that. So what is required is that the scale with which we are able to expand the system. Today, my company, which is hosting maybe 1,000 users, I want to go 10,000 users. Or I have few modules included now. Tomorrow, I wanted to have more modules. I do not want to have a siloed. So that is what the scalability is. How it is possible for us to scale without disturbing our existing applications or the workload. And at the same time, whatever scale we talk about, the performance should not be affected. And the performance should be such a way, the linearity. When I am having a two-system configuration, which is giving me some X performance, when I am adding furthermore, it should give me, in addition to that, what is the performance we are going to get. That is what the performance. And the third one, the first two are combined with the third one. I am very sure when we talk about HANA or SAP solution, which is business-critical applications, there we are not talking about a scale-out, even though scale-out model is available, but the scale-out like a web server and cloud-enabled application, when we tell Netflix, for example, you see, these are thousands of servers what you run. If maybe about 100 servers down, nobody cares about that, right? HPE.com, when I tell HPE.com, when we run in the backend, there are several hundreds of servers. If something goes down, nobody bothers. So the availability is much more critical here. And at the same time, what is the kind of TCO you are going to pay? It is going to cost you. The TCO and ROI, that is very, very important. Now, last 4 years, we have been seeing SAP HANA. Now, this becomes even more critical, the TCO. Then the last one is about the experience. We have particular lot of elements are there. Who is going to own up all of them? If there is something bad happens, or whom I have to go and catch hold of. Okay, so we are going to just see all of them. What we do, HPE solutions for SAP HANA is, we have something called as convert systems. These convert systems are built on HPE servers and the storage and networking, all of them, which is factory integrated, validated by Hewlett-Packard Enterprise and SAP. And in fact, we also have our development center situated in Waldorf, which is in Germany, along with SAP, so that the interaction will be much faster, much quicker. So what this does is that, frankly, you do not need to worry about what is the firmware level I run, And what is the system inside that? What all it takes is that, the sizing, which typically comes from SAP. Maybe you need 1 TB system, 2 TB system. I should be able to scale to 6 TB system. These are the definitions for your database. After all, it is HANA is nothing but in-memory database. And subsequent to that, you also have some of the IOS requirements and all of them. It nicely validated and packaged in a rack, which is tested, as I mentioned. And we do not need to do much of this installation on site, which is done at the factory. It may take a week more than a traditional system, which is called as do it yourself. Buy everything separately and do it. But whereas in this, everything is factory integrated, validated. The image what we use is validated by HPE and also SAP engineering as well. Now, the ownership comes from HPE. I'm going to just cover a little later about that. So this is one what you can take note of. I don't know whether the market share in 2, 4, 8, 16 sockets, what we do. And this is available with Intel's E7 processors, okay, which is the latest generation E7 Haswell processors. Then the last one is mission critical availability, which I will just park because I want to just cover that later. So what HPE provides is that we have different offerings. As you can see here, I want to have on-premise. And that's what we see. And also if you want to have hybrid, which the previous presenter as well was telling about this. The hybrid, if you look at, which we cannot ignore. The reason is that you also need to have your on-premise and hybrid as well. If you look at the hybrid, which supports we have something called as flexible capacity, which currently I want to have maybe about 1 TB system. And tomorrow I want to scale it to 6 TB. But whereas I may not have time to go and procure at that time. Instead of that, I will keep it all the time on site. And whenever I need, I just enable it by the license. So which is called as flexible capacity services, which is part of the solution. Then finally, if you look at on-demand on the cloud as well, what we have, which is called as managed service for SAP HANA and SAP HANA as a service. So all these, if you look at what comes with all of them, is that factory integration. And factory integration, which is combined with the on-site. Whatever factory integration we do, on-site, you will have to give some of the environment variables. It may be an IP address, it may be your usernames, credentials, all of them, which all of them will be captured and which can be deployed. It helps you to reduce maybe a month or 2 months it takes for you to deploy. It can be done, SAP HANA on-site, within maybe 2 days or 3 days. That is what the speed at which you'll be able to go live with your applications. Actually, we have a couple of options available here. As you can see here, something called as tailored data center integration. What that means is that you may already have some of the components, maybe a storage or some of the components, elements you already have on-premise. If you wanted to use that, then you will go for the tailored data center appliance, okay? So which is more tailored for the particular environment. But where you will look at an appliance, I will give the entire ownership to the vendor, to HPE. HPE will own up everything. As you can look at, guaranteed maximum performance. Okay? The performance, when I tell the latencies or the response times, which we guarantee with the appliance, because it is a completely controlled environment, certified and validated by HPE and SAP. The second one is faster time to value, which I mentioned. We do not do the do-it-yourself approach on site. Everything we had done at the factory. And factory, when I tell, is really very experienced. Last 20, 30, 40 years, we had been building systems. So the same lines what we use for the images, what we have for SAP. Then the lowest lifetime TCO, single point of support, which I will just come little later. So along with this, what also we have is that we have something called as Service Guard for Linux. Okay, Service Guard for SAP extension. What it does is that it helps you to keep your system or your application available. If there is a production system goes down, within maybe minutes, it is going to be available. Because the reason why I am saying within minutes is that you are end of the day, you are going to have something in-memory database, SAP HANA, unlike the shared model. So in this, how fast it is possible for you to bring up the applications. So the Service Guard extension for SAP, which helps to do that, which is a software component. Again, Service Guard for Linux, which is not a newer software, which is there with us almost about 20 plus years. We have been using Service Guard for Unix and the same codes what we use as a Service Guard for Linux as well. So which is again 20 years plus, really very, very well proven. So which is available not at the operating system level as an availability, at the application level. Then this is the last one, which is called as Center of Excellence. What we do is, we don't treat SAP HANA installation as a traditional database or application installation. Okay? And we don't treat this as a general hardware installation as well. End of this road, about 3-4 kilometers, we have a Center of Excellence which is sitting here called GR Tech Park. There is a specialized team, which is a virtual team, even though which is based out of here. They connect with SAP in German as well, and Australian team and the US team. It's a virtual team. They follow the Sun model. That's how they operate. What this team does is that whenever there is a call logged for SAP HANA appliance, so it is going to hit the center here, and what that means is that they know exactly what is it you are running, what is the firmware you run, and what is the OS version we run, and what is the database version you run, and operating system. They have completely. And with the experience and with the other customers, whatever they would have received, and engineering validations, they know what could be the reason, and what is the issue, whatever the reasons you have called, and it will be much faster for them to resolve as well. And it is combined with something called as Insight Remote Support, which is part of all our systems. And what it does is that it's kind of call home. Whenever there is a failure happens, it automatically locks a call with Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. So with this, what you see is that you do not need to go to multiple teams. HPE is a single point for you to contact, whether it is a hardware, whether it is an operating system, and the tie-up with SAP, what we have, the collaboration with SAP, what we have at the engineering level, what we work with them, will be able to resolve your issues much faster to bring your applications live. So this is another one, which is a glowing example of what we are doing in this. 2,400 plus and counting. So these are some numbers which you can see to yourself as well. So here, I want to thank you and also summarize. The first part, what I covered is about the composable infrastructure. So as I mentioned, the composable infrastructure, we have 3 guiding principles. One is that the fluid resource pools. The other one is software-defined software-defined templates. The third one is about the unified API, which is a single code which helps you to deploy everything, which is a composable infrastructure. The second part, we covered about SAP HANA. Why HPE for SAP HANA? Okay, so these are the things what I covered. So we are going. I am joined by Anand here, and also Devesh here. 3 of us are here from Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. We are going to be around here during lunchtime. So you can ask us some questions. I have another 8 minutes, so you can ask some questions. So I think I am seeing very attentive audience here. Thank you so much for that. I can take some questions. Is there anything more on composable infrastructure or?
So I think since you guys are around, maybe if someone has a...
You have a question? Can you give mic here?
Yeah, can someone give a mic there, please?
Yeah, this composable infrastructure that you're talking about, that is primarily the hyper-converged infrastructure. Is my understanding correct?
Oh, thanks, Vinod. Vinod, I know very well. We know this from IBM. So the question is about the composable infrastructure. The composable infrastructure is an infrastructure which is going to host your physical workloads. It is going to host your virtual workload and can be hyper-converged as well, and also the containers. Basically, you can put everything in that. There is not going to be just hyper-converged. For hyper-converged, we have a separate appliance which is called as hyper-converged 380. So which is a 2U box. In that, you will have a lot of VMs, you can do that. So that is hyper-converged. But whereas this is a blade server architecture in which you can have physical, virtual, and containers. See, HPE, what we wanted to do is that we wanted to go along with the industry. One is that we wanted to pioneer in the industry the way how we had done the blade servers way back in 1999. Then we introduced C-class blades in 2004. The same thing available for even SAP HANA as well. Now, what we are going to launch next is the composable infrastructure. And at the same time, what we are seeing in the industry is that the virtualization, which is prevalent for last 10 years, we are seeing adoption of containers in the last few years. Right, you are seeing Dockers and the containers, which helps you to put more workload in a given server host. So what we do is that by end of this year, every Hewlett-Packard Enterprise server shipped out of factory will have the containers which is licensed and also pre-installed. What all it takes is just few minutes or few hours for you to go live. And the R&D and all those whatever required, which is done at the factory by Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. So that is what the engagement what we have, with the containers actually. Okay, any other questions? Okay, if no questions, thank you so much for joining.
So he's around, so you can always ask him.